Hey everyone, this is Cindy. It's March 21st, 2025. Here on the East Coast of the United States, it's currently 10 a.m. or 10:01 a.m. We are in an open door hour that we've entitled Reality Check. The intention, if anyone would like to just sink into this with me for a minute, the intention for this hour is a direct experience of truth. And the tool we use to sink into that intention is the teachings as they come through Helen Hamilton. And what has become our habit here, which will continue until something else shifts, is that we take a few minutes to listen to a recent clip of Helen Hamilton. And I have one set up, it's 6 minutes long. And then we allow whatever wants to be spoken to be spoken. And then we read from Reality Check.
Yes.
And I just realized that I don't have a volunteer reader this week.
Listen, I'm right in the middle of a class.
I wonder, Pat,
Thanks a lot.
can I volunteer you to read this week? I know you weren't here last week, but someone like Rana's in the room, Amy's in the room, Livy read last week. Someone will know where to pick up.
Okay.
All right, so Pat
Well,
will read for us. But first, is there anything anyone would like to share before we spend 6 minutes with Helen's teachings?
we're on page 11.
Thank you, Amy. All right. Helen Hamilton, here we come. There is nothing other than you is the title of this clip. It's about 6 minutes long. Here we go.
Dearest Helen, can you please refine this for us? We move away from conscious thought and rest in the noumenon, but this still feels like two experiences. How do we keep attention on the real without the mind seeming a second phenomenon? Is it that it is all one, but thoughts are of lesser value? So all one, but we choose infinite. Something like that. Thank you as always. So if you don't know this word noumenon, it's a word that I liked when I was really seeking, because it didn't have any background, didn't have any baggage attached to it. Noumenon just means that which is not a phenomenon, that in which all phenomena appear. And if you don't like it, it's totally okay. You can use God, divinity, supreme self, silence, consciousness, presence, beingness, whichever. So how do we keep attention on the real without mind seeming like a second phenomenon? So if you take your attention right now to what is real, maybe that's whichever way you access that, through direct inquiry, finding out what you are, or by listening to the silence in between these words, or by noticing the emptiness around the forms. Whichever way you do that, if you put your attention on what is real and permanent and unchanging, really absorb your attention in it. And tell me then if there's any phenomena left from there. Phenomena that are separate. Is there such a thing called mind? When you are this that is. Does this formless awareness, I'm going to call it for now, does it have any second phenomenon? Does it see a thought as a thought? Does it see a body as a body? Or does it see sculptures made out of itself, no different than itself? Because if we're seeing a second phenomenon, there's the awareness of mind or thought then we haven't fully really recognized the awareness as much as we could. Awareness has no edges. It is formless and boundaryless and infinite. And the very fact that it goes on forever in all directions, up, down, left, right, northeast, southwest, always being here, here right now, always will be here, the only thing that exists. Would you still call it mind from there then? What happens to all the dictionary of nouns, naming, labels from there? Do you know what this is from there? And at first, when I asked myself this question, I was really convinced, yeah, there's awareness of a body, a thought. When I actually really looked deeper and deeper, if awareness is everywhere at all times and can never be absent from anywhere, the real self, there can be no second. And then mind is just another synonym for awareness. And all the nouns in all the languages, all the labels are synonyms for awareness, consciousness, presence. So all one, but we choose infinite. Can you see the duality in that statement? Even to say awareness is appearing as mind is a little too strong. Eventually you won't even want to say that. It's just awareness. A cloud in the sky might look like 100,000 things. Sometimes it looks like a snake and then an elephant, and then you can see a face in it, and then as it's passing you by, it's changing, but it's still non-different than the cloud. So dive a little deeper into that real self, that noumenon, that awareness, and see if they're from there, not looking at it as an imaginary separate self, but from the real self itself, the infinite emptiness of your being. Is there anything else there to see? The analogy that helped me also was, if I am the infinite ocean, am I really going to call a wave on top of a wave? Or am I just going to recognize it's all ocean, it's all water, it's all one? So, hope that's a bit clearer. It's not always so easy to see at first. But if you look from the infinite, there's nowhere else to look than, nothing else to see. Infinite means infinite. If there's something other than infinite, it's not infinite, it's finite. There's awareness and. The moment we go and or awareness of, or awareness or mind, we're back into duality and we're imagining again that there is something other than you, awareness.
So there is a space for anyone to share what may or may not have come up. Please,
She
Amy.
does
Amy and then Izzy.
she does a good job in another video of describing how being in that awareness can feel boring, and how the mind and all of the things that the mind and the emotions can do can pull you out and captivate your attention. And she does a great job of explaining how that can happen and why being in that space can sometimes just feel like it's just not all that interesting. And I just wanted to share that.
I totally agree. That was one of the clearest explanations, and it made it so understandable for me that I very much enjoyed that. Thank you, Cindy.
Mm.
Hey, Izzy. Izzy and then Rana. Yeah.
I'd like to listen to that again. There is nothing other than you. Is that the name of that
I'll put the link to the YouTube
link?
video in
Okay.
the chat.
The thing that struck me when she put up her hand and she says, "Look at your hand. Do we know what this is without a word for it?" And boy, whoa, that almost knocked me off my feet. Do we know what this is if we don't have a word for it? Do we know what anything is if we don't have a word for it? Wow, that went deep for me. Okay, thanks for the link.
Thank you. Hey, Rana.
Hey, and I'll jump right off that. Thank you, Izzy, because I heard her say all labeling, all labels, all naming are synonyms for awareness. You know, it's all awareness, right? And then so the labeling, what the mind does with the labeling is it sets it apart from, it makes it separate, but really it's all one thing. So I looked, what came to me was look at the word apart. A-P-A-R-T means separate. But if you say a part, it's a section that I've labeled as part of the whole, you know? And so the ocean metaphor is just sinking deeper and deeper and deeper. I even labeling it ocean, right? It's water. Go deeper than that. It's awareness. It's all of it. Everything is it. I'm just labeling it. So it's funny. The mind's like, you've said this a million times before. Don't you get it? But I mean, there's just like, as he said, there's something so much deeper right here. All labels are synonyms for awareness. Thank you.
And I'd like to add, based on my understanding of something I read this morning in Resurrection, that's what I'm reading. But what the guides were pointing to this morning was that this idea of separation, or the separation, the idea that I'm Cindy and having these experiences, isn't what they're asking to have dissolved. What they're inviting is the idea that that's an obstruction. And this pointing, though, especially this pointing that all words are just synonyms for awareness, is hit me in the same way. So I get to have the Cindy experience and dissolve the idea that I can't be Cindy, God as Cindy. Like the idea that being a body means that I'm not God. If that makes sense. That's what I'm sinking into, this idea that the experiences we are having do not need to be an obstruction to allowing the divine to flow, because that's what they were talking about, being in this position of just allowing the divine to flow without it being obstructed. And I heard her speaking to the same thing in and just instead of eliminating words from my vocabulary, accepting that all words are synonyms for awareness. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. It's lighting something up. Hey, Amy.
Hey there. I just think that this is a really sort of a master level discussion in many ways. But part of what we read last night was this line on page 201 of the Purple Book. It says, God is not in you. You are part of him. Right? And that is a really subtle difference, but a really vital difference. So God is not in each of us as separate parts. We are in it, as it, of it. And so to say that God is looking out through this these eyes that what is in this apparent world is not untrue. Thank you.
William,
There's something that shifts for me from looking toward and looking from. And when I'm looking from, it's being awareness all the time. And that feeling of nothing to do, no place to get to, I'm just already home, I'm coming from. So everything is from. So something about that just feels so right.
shall we see how, Patricia?
Yes, and building on what William is saying, if I'm looking from, I am in the moment. I need to be present in the moment to look from. And I'm just curious, William, what your experience is looking toward. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's great because now I'm right back into a separate self. I'm looking toward, I'm trying to get to. And then when I shift, it's almost like, oh, I turn around and I'm already there.
Mhm.
And I'm just describing. And I love that. I love how she said it. Look from the infinite. I'm always trying to get to something. And
That's
it's like the part of me even can't believe it. That's me looking again towards something. I'm already there. I'm already there, but I'm just so used to looking at where. So that's what I feel. Thank you for making it so clear to me too.
thank you.
Shall we see how far we get with the book? All right. You ready, Pat? Somebody's going to tell you where to read from. Hold on. Read from. Did you get
I've
it?
already been informed. I just want to be quiet for a second here and let you hear my background noise, because if it bothers you, maybe somebody else should read. I have a clothes washer going in the next room, and if it doesn't bother you,
Oh,
I'll happy to read.
does it
Okay.
bother Does somebody want somebody else to read?
No, I'd love to read, but if
Okay. It
somebody,
doesn't bother. I love the connection that happens when I hear the environmental sounds and other people swear. So I'm not a person to complain about that. As long as I can hear your voice, I'd be fine.
wonderful. And also on this subject of this conversation that we've been just having, the satsang that Helen did yesterday, which is called "The Knower of Illusion is Always Free." She leads in a meditation where she leads you to that place of looking from. Whew, I'm getting chills. I was doing it with her, and I opened up my eyes. Everything looked different. So I highly recommend it. It's the same thing that we're talking about here. Okay, chapter 3. What does it mean to be formless?
Oh, and 1 second, Pat. There are some people I think that are here for the first time. So you know, the way this group works, at any given time, any of us can say, can we sink in further and stop the reading? When that comes to you, please don't raise your hand. I can't see it. Just unmute and say, I'd love to look at this, or can we stop here? So everyone here has equal opportunity to do that during the reading. There you go, Pat.
And I think it might have been Jimmy Durante, if you guys, some of you remember. Oh, Barbara's raised her hand. But he used to say, "Stop the music." Okay, Barbara.
What was the name of that song you listened to yesterday?
It was, I listened to it this morning. It was on the air for the first time yesterday. The Knower, I'll give you a link. The Knower
Okay,
of
thank you.
the Knower of Illusion is always free. I'll put it in the chat. So, what does it mean to be formless? Most people that use self-inquiry do so to a certain point and then stop after a basic level of realization of what we are. To fully understand what it means to be formless and to live as that is going to require you to challenge every assumption or thought you believe. It need not take a long time, nor need it be difficult if you are already willing to change the way you perceive the world, yourself, and other beings. The aim of this book is to help you challenge every thought and assumption that is currently holding you in a limited perception of reality. You will have to be honest with yourself when an assumption pops up and you feel resistance to looking at it. You will also have to be honest with yourself if you find you are becoming distracted from this most vital work and realizing what you truly are in its fullness. Right now in this world, there are thousands upon thousands of spiritual seekers who believe they know the full truth of what they are because they have seen what you have seen in the previous chapters. People will often say something like, "I have seen what I really am, but I still have to live in the world." Or, "How do I live as this formlessness but still pay my bills and go to work?" Many times I hear people who say and believe they have fully realized the truth of what they are, but they still deeply believe in an out there that is different to the reality of the formless self. If you find this is still the case for you, then realization is not yet complete. True knowing of the formlessness is to know yourself as all of reality. There is no quote world or quote manifest or quote reflection external to the unmanifest awareness that you are. The full realization of the absolute reality should and must permeate all of your life too, and unless it does, then it is not yet complete. What we call the outer world, the universe of solid objects, is not how we think it is. No form, no body, no object is really there as we think it is, and until this has been deeply assimilated, you will continue to experience lack, limitation, and suffering. I will say that again because it contradicts so many of our cherished assumptions. The world is not different from or separate from the self. The manifest did not ever arise out of the unmanifest. There is no difference between form and formless. You are not a spiritual being having a human experience. There is no being or human.
All right, let's stop for a moment. That may be the longest we've ever gone without conversation.
Yeah, I want
I
to
am-
sink into those statements right there.
There was only one more. The world only appears to be real until you see what it really is and what you really are.
So real honest question, and I just got real nauseous, so I know it's for me. I'm having a real direct experience. How many? It's here. I was looking at it in my diet this morning, and the question arose this morning: if I just pick up and walk away and don't show up for this meeting, don't show up for the retreat I'm doing this weekend, blah, 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 blah. How many others will be affected? That was like, there was this sense of personal responsibility that was coming up, not in a negative way, but in a way that I wanted to just ask you, how many people right now are here listening to all these words, loving these words, and still think that they're going to make you a better person or more capable of interacting with the world out there?
I know that because that's my experience.
It's my experience too. And
So
it's what my heart desires.
I've been looking at today, now, right now, the contradiction between knowing that hanging out in this work and serving this work is making the world a better place, and part of the teaching says there's no world out there.
I don't know.
Hey, Libby.
Yeah, this is so timely. I was actually gonna speak with somebody later today about some of this. I mean, right now, and y'all have heard me this week, just kind of going batshit crazy. And it's been okay. I need to have windows replaced. I need to find a place to put some of the stuff that I have here. I need to get a new door. I need new floors. These are necessities that I need in my living space. And I have found that that has been taking my attention when I'm not on these meetings with y'all, or a meeting that my mornings are kind of full, and then I get off the meetings and I'm like, okay, I need to go to Lowe's and order the windows, and I need to do this, and I need to file my taxes next week. These are things in the human world that I have to attend to. And so it's recognizing, I think, that all of that is awareness. The windows are awareness. The door is awareness. If, everything is awareness. Even so, it's not something that is separate from the experience of being the oneness. It's so, yeah. And if I get thinking about it too much, my head feels like a vice. Yes. I remember. Go ahead.
You can finish, and then I'm going to probably call on Amy for a minute or somebody else.
Yeah, that's fine.
Was there more you wanted to say?
No, I was just going to say sometimes I remember being, many, 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 many years ago, being at a Course in Miracles reading, and remember saying to somebody, so that means da 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 da, and I finished, and they said, yeah, and I said, I think I just hurt my brain. And that's kind of how it feels sometimes, So yeah, take it away, Amy, or whoever.
Well, I was just, I was lit up when you said thinking about it hurts my brain, because this work is inviting us to come from behind the part that thinks, and maybe going back, like, can we be from maybe William, how would you suggest one pay the taxes from this point of viewing that you were pointing to before?
I was going to ask you your question about if you didn't show up and so forth. I just don't get it's like when I'm coming from, It's almost like it doesn't even matter. You're there and you're not. I have no idea. That's not my business there. I'm just coming from this place, and you show up or you show up. You don't. Now that's not the way I've lived. But coming from, that's what I get right now.
There was an aspect of self that was showing up during my dyad this morning that didn't know, that literally was feeling responsible for the activities. And in that aspect of self, the idea of coming from wasn't working. And that's, and it was, there was shame, there was a sense, and I don't do shame and guilt per se. So this aspect itself had shame and guilt around confessing that it was being seen. Like, how dare I say it out loud? That here's this aspect of self that is doubting God's existence, that needs to take care of itself. And I could feel a pull in the body right now as I say that, but there's this aspect of self that feels itself separate from what we're talking about, and how to be with that while knowing it's not useful and true. I'm so glad Amy has her hand up because the head's spinning.
So I think that this is everything, everywhere, all at once. This is a moment like that, everything, everywhere, all at once. So the thought, Cindy, first of all, I want to say, I knew you were having that thought. I knew it. I was with you when that thought came up, because it came up for me as well. This morning, I was thinking, I wonder if Cindy feels really responsible for all of this and how that is for her. That thought, that I had that thought this morning. So it's all, the thought is just a thought. It's arising. It's not even Cindy's thought, right? It's just arising because there's no Cindy, and it doesn't matter. It's just coming up. And then the next, Cindy moves into the next emotion that comes up. Oh, this is an opportunity. Oh, I feel responsible. Well, who is it that feels responsible? And who is it that would miss Cindy if she decided that she wasn't here or that she didn't want to be here? And then it would be, you know what? Once you came to the truth about those questions, you would know it would all work out. It would just work out. But even so, the experience that we have with you being here increases the love in this experience. And so we love that because it increases the love to have the oneness that we all are be informed by the apparently separate person that calls herself Cindy, that's part of all of us. Either way, it would work out just fine. It's like, if you decided that you didn't want to come this morning or didn't want to do the dyad, then that would take another path and there would be another unfolding. But it wouldn't be Cindy or anybody else doing it. It would be all of us, everything, all at once together, and it would all be just fine. But I just want to say that when I had that feeling, how does it feel to be responsible for everybody? The feeling that it came from me was a heaviness and a sense of limitation. And a sense of being enclosed in something. And then what came to me was, you know what? Just give that up and show up and trust that whatever happens is okay, and don't take any responsibility for it. There is no one to be responsible. Everyone who is present will be in the flow with you, and they're all part of you, and it's all happening on its own. And so you just become a spectator again. It's like, because that's all it really is anyway.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So let me, David, I'm going to hand it to you in a moment. Number one, the biggest part of this whole experience is the freedom to say it out loud, because that's what disappears. Number two, in case it hiccups in anyone. It was what set it off actually is there's like 40 people registered for the dyad experience this weekend. 3 of them used PayPal addresses or payment addresses that I don't have anywhere else. And we have not been able to give them the information on how to attend the weekend. So they paid for something and they have not come back and said, now what? And it was the responsibility for these 3 people. One of them lives in Slovenia, 2 of them live in Germany. I don't know who they are. I want to provide, there's the Cindy experience, and that actually, it was similar to what Libby was saying. There's these little things that in the system still somehow believe have to be done outside of awareness. And being able to allow them to come up and trust that all is in awareness and still have the freedom to allow the expression of the aspects of this self that doesn't believe that to be held. That's what this experience is, if that makes sense. Yeah. David.
Yeah, I'm listening and learning about this, and I want to be in the flow, and so I just dive right in. I mean, and it's almost I think I learned it in the service that when you get a new person who's just feeling their way through and think it's okay, he's just an OJT doing on the job training. And it happens in the corporate world too. So even though I'm always in the flow, I wasn't aware that I was in the flow. So I dive right in, I'm in the flow, and then I have one of these moments. And so the flow goes, whoa, and then washes me up on the shore. And it goes, okay, you need to work this out. And so when you get your shit together, you can come on back. And these moments of OJT workout are what I'm being in this world, in this body. This is where I work stuff out. And like I had a really great opportunity in the last 24 hours to do that. And so I worked it out. And as soon as I got it worked out, I'm back in the flow, baby. And it feels really good. And so I mean, I know I kind of practical pig everything, and that's okay too, because it works for me. So I'm, like I said, I worked my thing out. So I get to go. So the flow let me back in because I dealt with my stuff. And so here I am back again. It feels really good. So thank you.
Shall we read a little bit more, or is there more we want to talk about? I was looking for Pat. You ready, Pat? Oh, Patricia.
Yeah, just one thing. It's like when I do the dishes, I can get lost in thought or I can be present. I mean, isn't that what it's about? If I pay my bills, I need to be present.
I think it's also about knowing that even if you seemingly fall asleep, you're actually still there. That you never, ever are not the one. You never are not reality consciousness. Never. So once I realized that, it was kind of like, it was when I went to sleep again, it's okay. I didn't worry about going to sleep again because I knew I'd wake up, and I knew I never leave the awareness that I am ever. So
I think what I want to say in answer to that may be what Amy said. But for me right now, it's about allowing this aspect of self to come up and be seen without being judged. Like Michael Singer, we did a podcast in the last year when Michael Singer said there comes a time where you have to stop using the rational mind and allow the feelings to be expressed. So there is using Michael Singer's terms, there is a sanskara, there are sanskaras in all of us. There are blocks of energy. And when they come up, like this one that came up for me this morning, if I can allow it to come up and hold it in awareness without justifying why it should or shouldn't be, then it can be transformed into something else. But if I keep talking about why it shouldn't be there, then it gets stuffed back down. And that's anyway, that feels like the most honest expression of what was going on when I saw that energy this morning. I didn't want to tell it was wrong. I didn't want to tell it was right. I wanted to acknowledge that it was there and hold it and see what happened next. And there's tears here, so something needed, and the head is feeling really warm. So there's an experience that's happening here, acknowledging that there's an aspect of myself that will occasionally come up and feel really overwhelmed and not sure what to do, and it's okay. God's, I know all the right things to say, and I can make it feel better using my mind. But the invitation seems to not do that. And Michael Singer taught me that. That makes sense? I don't know. That's just what's happening. Izzy.
Yeah, and just to add one more bit to that, to hold it, but also to love it. And it's our humanity. It's our beautiful, beautiful humanity coming forth in whatever way it comes forth. So just the little bit of addition there.
Well, another word for awareness is love. So if
Correct.
awareness is holding it, then it's being immersed in love. Yeah.
Right.
I'm really grateful. William.
I'm remembering Helen Hamilton's talk about feeling the feelings, being with it, and then turning away, not in avoiding, but having spent that loving presence with whatever that samskara is showing up as, and turning and reminding, I come from that infinite space. When I'm in that space, it seems like there's a so what. There's a so what. Whatever the words, whatever the feelings, whatever it is, that is almost like a paradox. I can be in that space where everything else is really so what, so what, so what. They're just words, more words, thoughts. So it's kind of like, boy, I find both. And when I listen to her and I come from, and then I do the best I can with whatever feelings show up and be with it as lovingly as I can. So I just find this back and forth again. But even when I say it, I turn around and I'm coming from, and everything that was before is just so what. No.
Cool. A lot of this conversation is reminding me of the teaching of Douglas Harding. And I wonder if I shouldn't find another hour podcast from him to do here. That if anyone doesn't know who Douglas Harding is, he's the name associated with the process of the Headless Way. And his teaching just reminds us there's only ever one object. You're not an object looking at another object. Yeah. There's only awareness allowing the one thing to arise.
And when I'm coming from, I am the space that allows you to be.
Your words remind me very much of his teachings as well. Is there more, or shall we attempt to read a couple of lines? I'm open to whatever.
I've been searching for this thing that I know I have wrote down, and I often put them in files on my computer. I still can't find it, but I know the gist of it, which was that when these feelings arise, so you can look at them, thoughts or feelings, so you can hold them and let them be undone. And so I'm looking for this, and I can't find it in my file, but I did have this. So I found this, which is pretty much along the same lines. You cannot release what you don't know you're carrying around. So so you gotta, these things have to come up so you can look at them and go, okay. No, I don't think I need that. But you know, it's not without, it's not to berate yourself. You know, even it's not even that important. Whatever it is, it just comes, and the awareness is not aware of anything. Awareness is just awareness. So the minute that you say, or the second that you say, well, this awareness is aware of that, then you've made two things, and there aren't two things. So that's what I think Helen is saying here, is that there's no difference between form and formlessness. There's only the one thing. And, you know, we call this forms, and we call this, you know, experience of where we can go, where we can search for the oneness in ourselves and find it, and then say, well, there's this and then there's all that. But that's exactly what she is trying to get us out of.
Yep.
It's just all this. Yeah.
Yeah, the moment you think you have something that somebody else doesn't have, you're back in not there yet, or whatever, however we want to put those words. Hey, William.
Well, what I just now thought about reading Adyashanti, The Direct Path, what I'm getting from that, and I love it when he talks about being and becoming. Being is this nomenon, that's the being. It just is. And then the human heart, which he talks about being in the spiritual heart, but the human heart is always becoming. It's almost like, oh, yes, that's the paradox, both becoming and being. We're already there in the being. I'm just repeating some words, but they had such a, oh, it just felt like, oh, I can do that. I can be and I can become. It takes the effort and then I can just, that's the flow, it seems to me. I don't know, but it just feels so good.
Patricia.
What I'm finding is that coming from the heart, the more I'm aware that I'm in my heart, the more open it becomes. It feels larger and larger. It just seems to be growing.
Yes.
It, the heart, the awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we read a few lines?
Okay.
All right, let me pull it up.
Should I repeat those statements? Because I think that would be,
Absolutely.
Okay. I will say that again because it contradicts so many of our cherished assumptions. The world is not different from or separate from the self. The manifest did not ever arise out of the unmanifest. There is no difference between form and formless. You are not a spiritual being having a human experience. There is no being or human. The world only appears to be real until you see what it really is and what you really are. These statements may seem amazing and untrue right now, but I would urge you to remain open as we begin to break down the assumptions that make it seem as though you are living in a solid, tangible world. Inside a solid human body that is moving around in time and space, you will be able to take what you read and see if it is true when you apply it. Only then will you see that nothing is the way you have thought it was. This one I have put a little line next to in the heart. There is just the one, and that one is you. You are everywhere at all times, and you are not somewhere. Ideas like quote somewhere and quote everywhere don't apply to you if you are formless. Let's stop and check in right now. Take a moment to directly experience the answer to the question, what am I? And where am I? If you notice when you actually experience your true self, you will find that you are not a thing, not a form. You can recognize that you are very much here, but where are you actually? Can you even say where you are and where you are not? Do you have any boundaries? Okay. It is important to rely only on what you can prove to be true and not to go back to thinking about what you are. Notice that your human body and thoughts seem to appear in this vastness that you are, but is that really what is happening? Is there you plus your body? In the next few chapters, I will challenge these assumptions, and you can prove to yourself it is not so, and come to see there is no body, no mind, no thoughts, and nothing other than you. It will only be possible to understand these chapters if you are willing to question what you have come to believe in stone as true. It seems very logical, it seems very real and logical to most people that they have a human body and they have thoughts. So much so that they probably would never think even to question if it is so in reality. You are reading this book to find out what reality actually is. To do that, you must be willing to question what you may not have questioned before, and to look at things in a different way. And I'm just tearing up. I mean, this is freedom. The following statements are true. If you let go of all assumptions, you will be able to experience them as true. Don't worry if right now they do not feel real to you as yet. We will work through the assumptions that get in the way of knowing.
I'd like to share. Hello. Enjoying this conversation. You know, when you have this question, where am I? What I've come to understand is the mind, the intellect, the thinker, immediately says, well, I'm right here. And that's like end of story. But if you look at that, where is here? What is here? Where does here end? You know, and all of these questions started to roll through for me. I'm still stuck on the previous page where she said the manifest did not ever arise out of the manifest. Like I'm experiencing some huge like, what? Because see, the mind after reading Rupert has come to believe in this sentence that says objects arise in awareness. And so my mind is like, that's not right. So it's kind of shaking my thing. And that's why I've been so quiet. I'm listening to you all. And every time I went to unmute, somebody was jumping in and the ego was like, maybe you're not supposed to share about this. Maybe you're supposed to just figure it out. So I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to just shine a light on that intellect thing. You know, when I first started hanging around with you guys, Cindy would be like, oh, you answered that with your mind. And at first I'd be like, what? And then I started to understand what that meant. It's that first thought, wrong thought thing. And I guess that's what I've done with most of the assumptions of what I think reality is, because I just assume, oh, that's that. And it just limits everything.
So can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you change every word in these assumptions to awareness? You know,
Example.
well, Helen Hamilton stated that all of the words could just be replaced with awareness. So we're being fully inclusive, not excluding anything.
Mm.
So what was that statement that Rupert said? That your mind says
Objects arise out of awareness.
awareness arises from awareness. And
Right.
what is the statement that seems to conflict?
The manifest did not ever arise out of the manifest.
The manifest did not ever arise out of the manifest? Or
Unmanifest.
is,
Unmanifest.
so the
The
awareness,
manifest did not arise out of the unmanifest.
so the awareness has never not been anything but awareness, is the way I
Okay.
could rewrite that statement.
All right. Yeah, that's super helpful. Super helpful. Right.
I mean, to
Because
me,
it's
that-
just one thing. There's no thing coming out of another thing. There's right. Okay.
The statement to me that implies is that there's, from the unmanifest, something separate occurred.
Right. It implies there's two things. So there's only one thing. Okay. Thank you.
Is that quiet, that part? That
Yeah. Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
thank you.
Hey, Barbie.
Yeah, I'm having experience when Pat was talking about here, there, and everywhere. It's like, I am here, I am there, I'm everywhere, and I feel like a kid jumping inside me, up and down, and real with the big smile on my face. This is how I'm feeling right now. And I feel joy and happy and giddy. I want to go out, and if it was raining, I'd jump into puddles.
I do jump in puddles. This character does go out when it rains and jumps in puddles. And I don't care that my neighbors can see me. Something in me though says, Barbie, please don't start dancing on the tables. I know that that's prior conversations, but
No, that'll never happen. I'm too heavy for the table.
well, that's
But I get you, Jeff. Thank you.
I love us very much. There's only a few, 30 seconds left. And before I stop the recording, there's a couple of things I want to say when the recording stopped. We all want to know how Nadega's doing. She's been so quiet, and then I'll stop the recording.
I'm so happy. And all the chaos can be exactly as it is. I'm just so happy. Everything can be exactly as it is. Everything is all over the place, and it's okay. Yeah, everything is perfect. I'm so happy, and I love being here with everyone. This is just all I want. So, yeah.
Lovely. All right.
And I think I have 2 weeks. 2 weeks of the thing for my foot. Whatever. I don't know. Whatever it is they're doing. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We love you. All right, here we go.